Hello, my beautiful friends. And thank you so much for choosing to spend part of your Monday evening with me. Today is Monday, November 20th, 2023, and I'm Melanie Little, but you can call me Alice because I have fallen down into this rabbit hole of 1980s cold cases on Long Island, and there is no getting out of this. There's no getting out. I planned a show. I planned the cases I wanted to do the show on. I went onto the Newsday archives and I kept uncovering more and more and more and more cases. And the saddest thing about so many of these cases is that I cannot even find a picture of the victim. Some of these women had no pictures attached to the articles. And I just find that incredibly sad. That makes me really, really sad. Because this show is always, always all about the victims. And I can't even honor most of them properly because there are no photos attached to these cases from the early 80s. And it's sad. So what do you guys think? Since we last met on Saturday and we talked about the 5 cases that we talked about, which were all cases of young teenage girls who went missing and were found unalived between 1982 and 1985. We talked about Tina Folia, who's 19, who was last seen at Hammerhead's nightclub, or it was really like a concert venue in West Islip. She was found in 3 garbage bags in North Bay Shore that were tightly bound. She was dismembered. She was found February 3rd, 1982. She went missing 2 days before. We talked about Laura Parker, who was 14 years old. 14 years old, you guys. She went missing May 23rd of 1984. She wasn't found until September 10th of 1984, only a block away from Lindenhurst High School, where she was a student. And remember, she was found rolled up in a rug. It's going to be important because there's a lot of new cases that I've found, not new, old cases, cold cases, where the victims were found either rolled up in a blanket or a rug. And then we talked about Kelly Morrissey, who went missing on June 12th of 1984. She was 15 years old. She was a 10th grader at Lynbrook High School in Lynbrook. She left her house or on foot from her friend's house at 9:30 p.m. to go get cigarettes at a gas station, and she was never seen again. Kelly Morrissey has never been found, and her parents are still looking for her. Then we talked about Teresa Fusco, who went missing November 10th of 1984 when she left her job at Hot Skates, which was a roller rink in Lynbrook. She was 16 years old. She was a friend of Kelly Morrissey. She had just gotten in an altercation of some sort with her assistant manager at Hot Skates, where she worked a part-time job at the snack bar, and she got fired from her job. She left there in tears. That was November 10th of 1984. Her body was not found until December 5th of 1984. She was found buried under a wooden pallet, covered by leaves, and it's a little unclear about whether or not she was found in a cemetery. There is a cemetery right across the street from Hot Skates, where Hot Skates used to be. She was badly beaten, essayed, and strangled with a ligature. It was a rope. 3 men were convicted of her unaliving, and those men were named John Kogut, who was 21 years old. He was a landscaper. John Restivo and Dennis Halstead. They were all convicted of the unaliving of Teresa Fusco, and they were cleared after 18 years in prison in 2003 because the DNA that was found on her body did not match any of them. Oddly enough, those 3 men that I just mentioned to you were names that were mentioned in Kelly Morrissey's diary. She had dated at least 2 of them. It's really, really tangled. This is a really tangled web, you guys, and I can't get out, so you need to help me. The 5th girl that we spoke about on Saturday is Jacqueline Margarella. She was 19 years old from Oceanside. She went missing on March 26th of 1985. She left to go to her job at Burger King. It was a 10-minute walk from where she was, 10 or 15-minute walk. She worked at Burger King on Long Beach Road. She was supposed to be at work at 8 o'clock, but she never arrived there. Her body was found on the grounds of Woodmere Country Club golf course, strangled with a wire or a rope in a swampy marsh with 10-foot high reeds near, I think we said, the 17th green. And her body was not recovered until 1 month after. In fact, when the police found her body, there was a guy, an old guy out looking for golf balls. Not an old guy, but, an older gentleman. Golf clubs are usually closed on Monday. It was a Monday. He was out there looking for golf balls, as, many people do. And he came across her body. In fact, when the police initially showed up to the scene, they were checking to see if that was the body of Kelly Morrissey. But it was not. It was Jacqueline Margarella. So during the course of that 1-year period from May of 1984 until March of 1985, the last 4 girls that I mentioned were all from the Lynbrook area. Still unsolved. And so as I kept digging, as one tends to do, I kept uncovering more and more and more cases that we're going to get into tonight. But something else that popped up that I found to be very interesting is this. Because this is something that we talked about when Heuermann was first arrested. For those of you who are just joining and are not familiar with the LISK, or the Long Island serial killer case, Rex Heuermann, 59 years old, and maybe he's 60, was arrested in July of 2023 for the murders of 3 of the 4 Gilgo 4 women whose bodies were found here on Long Island on the same strip of Ocean Parkway on Gilgo Beach all the way back in 2010. When he was arrested, there was some sympathy for the family. In fact, a GoFundMe was started for Asa Ellerup and her 2 children. She has 1 child in the middle here. This is Jacqueline, who is Asa's daughter with Rex Heuermann. And this is her son, Christopher. He's from another marriage. He's a special needs child that she already had Christopher when she married Rex. Interestingly, the GoFundMe was started by Melissa Moore, who is the daughter of the Happy Face serial killer who was captured in 1995. And she started this GoFundMe for Asa Ellerup and their daughter, the Heuermann daughter, and Christopher Sheridan, once Rex got arrested. There had been a lot of concerns that after the Heuermann home was being searched by police for something like 12 days, that Asa and her children were forced to live in a car because they had nowhere to go. And there was some current concerns that the house was turned upside down and it was a mess. But then there had also been some evidence that it may have been like that before the arrest. But in any event, the GoFundMe has been shut down. The organizer has currently disabled new donations to this fundraiser. That is curious to me. So $56,395 was raised. This was the last donation was 5 days ago, which may coincide with the date that it came out that Peacock had paid the family, had paid Asa, or is paying Asa and the children $1 million to do a documentary. We saw them being followed around by a camera crew at the last court appearance. Asa's attorney, Robert Macedonio, said that Asa was now going to come to every court appearance. She had not been to the first 3 because now she wants to hear with her own ears the evidence. I don't know if it has anything to do with her being followed around by a peacock camera crew, but she did look like she had a makeover of some sort when she showed up in court that day. And a lot of people are very angry about the this documentary, about the fact that they're paying her $1 million, about the fact that based on some new evidence, there may or may not be a connection with her to some of these crimes. And yes, Marianne, 100%. Thank you. The real victims didn't get anything. A lot of people are very angry that Asa has not come out and said anything in support of the victims and their families. And that's a great point, DC. What if she is brought up on charges? That's a great point. Is the money going into trust for the kids? I don't know. But what I do know, and what you know, is that 4 of her hairs were found on 3 of the victims. It's in the bail application. And initially, because we're going to take a look at the bail application again when we get to his Google searches, initially the police said right in the bail application that Asa was out of town, out of state, they said, and I quote, out of state during the time that at least maybe all 3 of these women were unalived and went missing. And my question is to them, how do you know the exact date that they were unalived? They found these bodies in December of 2010. The earliest to go missing, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, went missing in 2007. I don't know. That was pretty sus to me when they ruled her out as a suspect right away. And I'm not saying that she's, listen, guilty. Everyone is guilty until innocent until proven guilty. Innocent until proven guilty, I say. But we don't know. They were real quick to rule her out, and I don't understand it. Hi, Fuzzy Doxy. I believe she fooled everyone into thinking she is innocent and needy when it's more likely greed. I don't know. I don't know, but I will tell you this. He signed over the house to her for $0. She filed for divorce within 5 days of him being arrested. Somebody told me the other day that the divorce is already finalized. I don't know. I couldn't verify that in the court records, but there's a lot going on here. If you listen to John Ray, he says it's being done to protect the assets, and it would protect the assets in a case like this. So I don't know. We're going to talk about facts tonight, and we're going to look at some facts, and we're going to look at some cases that, in addition to the 5 that we just talked about the other day, that are still cold. Many people think that these bodies were discovered in 2010 when Rex would have been 47 years old. A lot of people say, well, it wouldn't have just started at 47 or 44 when Maureen Brainerd Barnes went missing. That people who have studied serial killers say that they start much earlier. And so some people think that he may turn out to be the most prolific SK of all time. Tell me what you say. Tell me what you think. Those of you who live here on Long Island with me have been living with this case since 1996, when Karen Vergata's legs washed up on Fire Island in a black trash bag. Karen Vergata was not identified until last October. So we've been living with this for a very, very, very long time. And we all want some closure to it. And there are so many other cases to talk about. And at first I was going to just tell you about the 4 from Hempstead who had a history of being escorts, but it goes back even further than that. And I found a very interesting case. There was a young girl, her name is Janice Fullam. She went missing on Halloween Eve, October 30th of 1981, 17 years old. She goes missing, tongue twistering everywhere tonight. She goes missing from her house in Smithtown, which is in Suffolk County, which is also the town of someone else that we know, James Burke. At 10:45 p.m., she left on foot to look for her brother. She went to a local shopping center. And what is interesting about this, and we talked about this the other day, is that so many of these missing girl cases were treated by local police, Suffolk and Nassau, as if they were runaways. And it was the 80s. I guess it was a different time. I mean, I was there, but it's kind of like, I don't, it just wouldn't happen now, right? I mean, tell me if you think I'm wrong. She liked to hitchhike, just like Tina Folia, just like so many of the other girls that we looked at on Saturday. She was a hitchhiker. And now, if a 14, 15, 16-year-old girl goes missing, are they treating it like it's automatically a runaway? I don't know. It's crazy to me. And so what's even crazier to me is that when Janice Fullam went missing, and she's never been found, by the way, she was 17 years old. She left her house with less than $1 in her pocket. It gets a little, and here's a little bit why they probably didn't take it as seriously as they might have wanted to, but she's never been heard of to this day. Heard from it since 1981. She had been arrested for sale of LSD. She liked to smoke pot and hitchhike, but she left with less than $1 in her pocket. She also went missing 5 days before she was to be sentenced for the sale of LSD. And so I police were speculating that she probably ran away because she didn't want to be sentenced. I kind of disagree. And here's an article about poor Janice Fullam. And this article was written in, when was this written, this article? I want to source it properly because I don't want to give you bad information because we're all about the facts here. I think this was 1986, because this has a picture of her, so let's share this article. So here's a picture of Janice on the right. Here are her parents, and the title of this article is Missing, Fugitive or a Victim. So it's almost like they were treating her, the police, as a fugitive that she was running away from being sentenced for this LSD charge. And I don't know. Tell me what you think. This was an article. I'll read a little bit of it to you. Missing, a fugitive or a victim. Hop Hog. Her designer jeans and blouses, the clothes of a well-off teenager, were left hanging in her closet. Her jewelry, including a favorite heart-shaped pendant, was left undisturbed on her dresser. The night Janice Fullam disappeared, the night before Halloween 2 years ago. Okay, so this would be 83, this article. She disappeared in 81. She had less than $1 in her possession and only the clothes she was wearing, a maroon leather jacket, a blue and red striped pullover shirt, and tight-fitting jeans. At 10:45 p.m., she left a friend's house, walking in the direction of a neighborhood shopping center to look for her brother. She was a slim girl with shoulder-length brown hair and hazel eyes, walking on a neighborhood street as she had many times before. She has not been heard from since. To police, she is a convicted drug dealer, a fugitive from justice. To her family, whose efforts to find her included hiring a psychic, she is a good daughter whose failure to contact them is almost incomprehensible. Her mother, Joan, believes she is a victim of foul play. Her father, James, who still sifts through her belongings looking for clues, hopes she is alive, afraid to come home to the cedar shingled ranch at 298 Mount Pleasant Road. Now, 2 years after her disappearance, her parents have increased their reward offer to $5,000, and police are pressing her investigation. And it goes on to talk about her and her family. Her teachers described her as conscientious, hardworking. She dated frequently. She had posters of rock groups on her bedroom walls. And then it said, but Janice Fullam had another side. She was in trouble and she had reason to run. At 17, she had been arrested on charges of criminal sale of LSD and undercover narcotics officer on 3 separate occasions. Police said 2 of the sales took place on the grounds of Smithtown High School West, where she was a senior, and the other at an intersection near her home. She had pleaded guilty to one of the sales as part of a plea bargain and faced the possibility of a year in jail. She vanished 5 days before she was to be sentenced. They go on to say that she probably ran away because she was scared of going to jail because one of her girlfriends had been sentenced on similar charges recently, and she was sentenced to 45 days in jail and 5 years probation. So the I guess the detective's theory was that she thought she may wind up in jail, and so she ran away. But they say only hours before she disappeared, she learned that she had been hired as a waitress at a local restaurant. She was sufficiently excited to call her mother, who was working the late shift, at about 6:30 p.m. to tell her about it. She had a new boyfriend. Everything was going right for her, said her friend, who was one of Janice's best friends. If she had any intention of running away, she hid it from me really well, said the boyfriend. That's what all of her friends and relatives say. At Smithtown West, she was not known as a troublemaker or an excellent student. Outside of school, there was a more daring side to Janice. She hitchhiked frequently. She smoked pot. After her mother discovered $40 in singles in her pocketbook, she admitted that she had made it selling marijuana. She promised never to deal again. So it goes on and on to, did she run away? Was she a drug dealer? Or did something nefarious happen to her? And they did a follow-up article on this 30 years later, and she's still missing. Let's see if I can find that article for you. Yeah, Carly, 45 days isn't a long sentence. I don't see her running away from that. Not for over 30 years. Let's go to not the devil's lettuce. I mean, this was, what, 1981? It's crazy. Here's the article from 30 years later. I'm telling you, I have fallen down this rabbit hole and I cannot get out. Help me out. This is the 30-year anniversary article. Missing 30 years. Where's Janice? She looks like every other girl from the early 80s with the feathered hair. Everybody remembers that Farrah Fawcett hairdo, right? Her family and one retired cop are still looking for answers 30 years later. And that is the story of Janice Fullam. I was talking to my good friend Oblivious Benson today because, for those of you who remember Oblivious Benson, she is a cold case solver. I call her my own personal Penelope Garcia, if anybody ever watched Criminal Minds. And that is what she does. She helps people for fun, not fun, but out of the goodness of her heart, find missing people. And she's got tons of resources. And we were on the phone right before this show, and we started going off on tangents. And I said, I have to do the show tonight. I have to do the show. And I want to talk about the cases that I'm talking about tonight. And then we'll talk again. And I want her to come back on. And I'm sure if she's watching tonight, unless she's studying, that she will dig a little deeper into this stuff. And she is awesome, Darlene. Yeah. Teresa, she is great. Yes. And one of you reached out to me the other day and told me about your missing friend. And I said, reach out to her. And I know that the two of you are already on it, and she's found a lot of information for you. So I'm really, really happy. Hi, Linda. Linda Vergata says, oh, yes, I had that haircut. Yes. Didn't we all? Didn't we all? Those face framing waves of Farrah Fawcett. And how many of you, I don't know how many guys are in here, but ladies too, had that poster of Farrah on your wall with the orange bathing suit, the one-piece bathing suit with the Farrah Fawcett hairdo? Remember that poster? Posters were a really big thing back then. All you youngsters, we had a lot of posters hanging on our wall. I had a poster of, okay, I'm going to date myself now, but Scott Baio, Bucky Dent. I love Oblivious Benson too. But Scott Baio was my guy. Remember Tiger Beat magazine? And I'm really dating myself now. D says, I love Oblivious Benson. I do too. Yep, Secret Diva. Yep, Linda Bergotta, too. Blow dry round hairbrush. Yeah. And then they came out with that all-in-one thing. That's kind of like the Dyson, but it was a lot cheaper. It had the round brush on it, and it was a blow dryer, and you could really do it all in one. Yeah, maybe one day we will have a thing where we all have to bring in our senior pictures. That's funny because I think my senior picture has that exact hairdo too. Crazy. Okay, so there's Janice Fullam, who went missing in October 30th of 1971, never to be seen again. Now, there's another case. Remember, we talked about Tina Folia, who went missing February 1st of 1982. Around the same time that Tina Folia went missing, another woman went missing. Her name was Margaret Forbes. She was 46 years old, a Brightwaters, and she lived, I believe she lived near Tina Folia. Her skeletal remains were found in Bayshore along the Robert Moses Causeway on the way to Gilgo Beach. She had been dead for at least 6 months and had disappeared in early 1982 around the same time as Tina Folia. She lived at 241 Windsor Drive in Bayshore at the time she disappeared. I have an old article that thank God for the Newsday archives, because I couldn't find any of this information. And then I subscribed to Newsday for like $1. I hate to give them my money, but for like $1 for 6 months or something, but you can't get into the archives. So today I paid for it. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to pay $8 to get into the Newsday archives. And now I am able to find all of this old information, and it is fascinating. Here's the article on Margaret Forbes. The skeleton discovered next to the Robert Moses Causeway in November, that would be November of 1982, was identified yesterday as that of a 46-year-old woman who disappeared early last year. Suffolk County homicide detectives identified the woman as Margaret Forbes, whose last known address was 241 Windsor Drive in Brightwaters. Police said yesterday that the Suffolk County Medical Examiner's Office has been unable to determine a cause of death. Police estimate that Mrs. Forbes had been dead at least 6 months. Mrs. Forbes, who was divorced, was a former factory worker. Detectives said they are looking for anyone who had seen the woman in the last year, hoping they could provide clues as to how she died. Could not find any picture of Margaret Forbes anywhere. Thanks, Claudia. Pay up the $8 so we don't have to. Yeah. Yeah. It's all right. I don't mind. This is a labor of love, you guys. This is 100% a labor of love. Couldn't find a picture of Margaret Forbes, so I don't even feel like I can properly honor her. And after this article, there was really nothing else to be found about Margaret Forbes. What struck me about this is that it says she was a former factory worker. And when we were looking at the 5 girls' cases the other day, one of those girls also worked in a factory. Let's go back to my notes. So that was kind of an interesting. Yeah. Kelly Marcy, who was never seen again, worked at a factory. She never picked up her last paycheck. She was the 15-year-old girl who was never found again, who went missing from Lynbrook. So I don't know. There's just a lot of weird coincidences that I just can't put my finger on. Murder Inc. Yeah, Murder Inc. Did a great job with a lot of this stuff. Somebody said there's a website and a lot of this stuff is put together. I kind of wanted to do my own research, but I did start there. So that is a great resource. But what's interesting about this is the Robert Moses Causeway, for those of you who live here, know that it goes directly down to the Suffolk County ocean beaches. Robert Moses Beach, which is farthest east. I guess that's not even Ocean Parkway, but Oak Beach is right off Ocean Parkway, where Shannon Gilbert went missing. Gilgo Beach is right off Ocean Parkway. So this is all in the same neck of the woods. Leith, it's really sickening how many young women suffered at the hands of this sick, twisted predator. Yes. Some people think it's more than one. Yes, Darlene, Bayshore is not far from Gilgo Beach. Let me pull up a map here for those of you who are not familiar. Hey, Meg. I've never learned of a serial killer that started later in life. To all the people who say his MO isn't the same in all cases, that's BS. Look at the Golden State Killer. He had 3 name sources. Yeah, I agree with you. Look, I agree with you that, sometimes it's a crime of opportunity. Sometimes it's a crime of passion. Sometimes it's and the methods and the modes can change, right? Strangling, gunshot, stabbing. I don't understand why people say it can't be the same guy because these people were shot, these people were stabbed. I think it depends on the situation. And I think if a person has those tendencies, they're going to act on them. And it doesn't have to always be the same exact way or the same exact type of victim. How far is Bayshore to Gilgo? Oh, I'm so glad you asked, Chihuahua. Let's take a look at the map. Let us take a look at the map. Remember when I had Mike King on from Profiling Evil? He said, I always put up maps. So now I will give you a map. Okay. The red dot that you see here is the Heuermann home. Okay. That is where Heuermann grew up. That is where he lived. That is the First Avenue home in Massapequa Park. Now, if we get out here a little bit, you will see due south, here's Gilgo Beach. In order to get to Gilgo Beach from Massapequa Park, you can take 2 routes. You can take, this is Sunrise Highway, to the Wantua Parkway, south to Ocean Parkway. Here's Jones Beach. That's where Rex worked, remember, summer of 81. And then from 1982 to 1984, he worked at Jones Beach State Park. That is right here. If you go a little bit further east, you come across Gilgo Beach, right here. And this is Ocean Parkway. If you go a little bit further east, you're going to hit Oak Beach, where Joseph Brewer lived, where Dr. Peter Hackett lived, where Shannon Gilbert went missing. I have to zoom out just a little bit more. Here is Bayshore. Is my cursor showing up? Can you see my cursor when I go back onto that map? So Bayshore is all the way here on the right side of your screen, right under my little head. Here's Bayshore. Where Tina Folia was found, and here's Brightwaters, which is also Bayshore. I believe it's the same as zip code. We we're just talking about Brightwaters as well. This is the area where, right here, where my cursor is, North Bayshore, where these 2 roads intersect. This is the Southern State Parkway intersecting with the Sag's Coast Parkway. This is where Tina Folia's remains were found in the garbage bag by the transit, I forget, the garbage guys that were going by picking up garbage, and they saw the garbage bags there and they picked it up. This is where Tina Folia, her remains were found. The Robert Moses Causeway is here. And this is where we are talking about Margaret, where her remains were found. Does that give you guys a better sense of how close everything is here? Darlene says, yeah, but people from Brightwaters get mad if you call it Bayshore, it part of the Bayshore. Yeah, but it is the same sort of zip code. Brightwaters is very, very small. So if a lot of people don't know about Brightwaters, I mean, if you don't live in Suffolk County, you've never heard of Brightwaters, right? Now, let's do something else. So here's where Rex lived. Here's Freeport, where there's going to be another discovery. Carmen Vargas was found over here in Freeport. This is all very, very close. If you were to do a circle with his house being the middle of it, right? And you were to draw a circle, so many bodies and so many cold cases were found in here. Here's Hempstead, where we're going to talk about 4 escorts who went missing in the Hempstead area, all unalived within the same span of a very close period of time, I think in 1984, 86. This is all very close. Here's Lynbrook, where Hot Skates was over here, from where 2 of the girls went missing. Oceanside, where Jacqueline Martorella went missing. And then Lindenhurst, which is right over here on the right side of the screen. So one of the other girls went missing, of the 4 who went missing from the Lynbrook, Oceanside, and Lindenhurst area. Everything is right here. Not a very big place, right, Anne? Too close for comfort. 100%. Betty, I would never place a bet that RH was not involved. He's right in the middle, 15 to 20 minutes away. You are correct. Mama Griffin, I know, right? It makes so much sense. And I think that's why she was telling Mike, I bet you were in on this whole time. I don't know who you're talking, who's Mike. So this is what we're dealing with. This is a very, very small area. It's a very small circle. He says, I live in Manhattan for years, never even heard of Brightwaters, thought it was all Bayshore. Brightwater, it's a very, very small area of Bayshore, right? I guess if Darlene is telling us that it's derogatory to tell people from Brightwaters they're from Bayshore, maybe higher property values there. Hello, Roger. Sadly, too many places to hide a body here on Long Island. Yes, right? And with the tides and the marshes and things wash out. Heidi Cakes, I may be wrong, but I can't help but wonder if James Burke isn't involved in any of this or had knowledge of it and didn't say anything. I think there are a lot of people who are going to agree with you in this chat. Hi, Erica. After my last live, I've wondered if Rex ever worked at a golf course, caddy, groundskeeper, or whatever in high school or college. Excellent, excellent point. Hi, Marcy. What are the distances between the beaches? All right, well, let's see. If we go from Jones Beach to Gilgo, Jones Beach to Gilgo is 5 miles. 3.9 miles. So from here to here, not far. 3.9. Maybe it's a little bit further. It's crazy. What say you, my friends? Scott says he doesn't think that RH acted alone. Mystery Girl with Missy, approximately 4 to 6 miles difference between the beaches. Yeah, it's not far at all. Not far at all. And on Ocean Parkway at night, I'm going to show you another picture of Ocean Parkway because I found a really cool picture. We were talking the other day about how dark it is on Ocean Parkway. At night. This is a daytime shot of Ocean Parkway. And you can see there are no streetlights. It's just endless, endless road. No, you're right, Scott. It does not get any darker on Ocean Parkway. And this is it, you guys. It still looks like this. It is not built up. This is a recent photo that Newsday published right after Rex was arrested. You cannot see anyone or anything. And the bodies were found on the north side. So this is the north side of Ocean Parkway at the top of the photo. See all the marsh, and this is the bay side. So this is where the Long Island Sound is if you go up further north, and all of this in here is a bay. There's all this bramble and ticks and all kinds of stuff, deer. And then to the right of the photo are the ocean beaches. Jones Beach, Oak Beach, not Oak Beach, Jones Beach, Cedar Beach, Tobay. This is ocean. This is where the bodies were found on the north side. Very scary. And the road also is very like wavy. I don't know how to describe it. It's like when you're driving, it's very not bumpy, but it's just like it's wavy. And the cops hang out there now because people figured out that you can get, do 90 miles an hour on Ocean Parkway if you want to go further south to get home and drive a lot further east. And there's never anybody on that road, but cops are onto it. Why no streetlights? Hello, Kirsten White. People on Oak Beach have been fighting streetlights for decades. They don't want them. They don't want the light pollution. And there's nobody out there. There's very few houses along this area. There's just that one gated community in Oak Beach up here on the north side of Ocean Parkway. And then on the south side, there are some other homes, but not a lot of residential homes in that area. Hey, Jason. I could see Rex driving his Avalanche, pulling over into that stuff, getting out and just quickly dumping and driving away. Yes. So after Margaret Forbes' skeleton was found on the Robert Moses Causeway leading to Gilgo Beach, there were a series of escorts that were unalived in the same manner. I said we were going to do clusters of 4, but there are so many more that it's hard to ignore them. And again, there's so many don't have photos, but I did find some with photos, so I'm going to use what I found. The first to go missing was a woman named Christine Clarkson. She was 30 years old, blonde. She was walking home from a Hempstead bar on February 16th of 1984, where she was essayed and strangled near the train tracks of the West Hempstead, Long Island Railroad Station. Her cause of death was blunt force trauma to the face, and she lived 2 blocks away on Garden Drive. The next woman to go missing, she is one of these next cluster that I'm going to mention who did not have a record for prostitution, sex work. The next to go missing was DEBORAH LEE SMITH. She was 20 years old. She went missing on August 21st of 1984. Actually, she was found August 21st of 1984. She was last seen the night before. She was found wrapped in a blanket near a curb in Valley Stream, also not far. We didn't look at Valley Stream on the map, but it is not far from any of these places on the South Shore. It's close. DEBORAH LEE SMITH, she was 20 years old. She did have a record for SW, we'll call it, and she was shot 2 times at close range with a large caliber weapon, but she was found wrapped in a blanket again and bound, which is something that I found to be very interesting. Where's the picture I have of her? Here's a picture. Okay, that's Ocean Parkway. Goodbye, Ocean Parkway. Here's a picture of Deborah Lee Smith. And this is an article from August 31st of 1984. Nassau cops identified 2 slain women. One of 2 murdered women found recently in Nassau County has been identified as a prostitute, police said yesterday. Police also identified the second woman in what they are now calling an unrelated case. A woman found fatally shot last month in Valley Stream has been identified as Deborah Lee Smith, 20, formerly from Quincy, California, who had been living in the New York City area. Detective Lieutenant Sean Spillane, commander of the Nassau Police Homicide Squad, said. The other woman, whose partially dressed body was found Wednesday floating in an East Meadow sump, was identified early today as Janice Amarante, 18, of Plainview. I fell into that rabbit hole of Janice Amarante. They did find the guy who did that, and that was horrible. He hid her body in a motel, in a bed. Like, people rented the room. He took the key. He went back, took her body, put her in a sump. Horrible. His guy, I think his name was O'Toole. So Janice Amarante's crime has allegedly been solved. The detective described Smith as a prostitute with, quote, numerous arrests for loitering for the purpose of prostitution, mostly in the Manhattan area. Smith also worked in out-of-town locations ranging from Atlantic City to New Orleans, Spillane said, and had no permanent address, but lived in various hotels, mostly in the Midtown area. Smith, listen up, Oblivious Benson, because you may be able to use this in the Wayback Machine and those Yelp forums that you've found for prostitutes and Johns. Smith, whose nicknames were Snow and Sparkle, was last seen alive by another prostitute about 11 p.m. August 20th at 11th Avenue and 34th Street in Manhattan, which is also not far from Port Authority Bus Terminal, where a lot of these other victims went missing from as well. Deborah Lee Smith's body was discovered August 21st, wrapped in a blanket near the curb of Hunters Avenue and Valley Stream. She had been shot twice at close range, once in the chest and once in the head with a large caliber weapon. Authorities said either wound would have been fatal. The shooting is believed to have taken place at some other location. Police said they still have no leads to the identity or the motive of the murderer. Authorities believe there's no connection between the shooting of Smith and Amarante. And they did not determine, I'm not sure what this refers to, which woman this refers to, this last paragraph, so I'm not going to read it. But here's a picture of Deborah Lee Smith. Tell me, guys, my law enforcement friends, because you know I'm not a gun person, what sort of weapon would cause this type of damage? They said a large caliber weapon. I mean, I'm just saying they found 297 guns in what is not a vault, in the cellar of the guy, that Human, that is sitting in jail. Yes, I know, Chihuahua. They make my heart heavy too, and it makes my heart even heavier when I can't find a picture to properly honor these women. And I don't care what they did for a living. They are women. They're someone's daughter. They're someone's mother. They're someone's wife. I don't care what they did for a living. Hi, Kel. Thanks for being a member for a month, my cupcake. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for listening. Back then, PD used a 38 caliber, not a big wound. Okay, so what would cause a big one? An 8mm or a rifle? Is that what you're saying? I'm not a gun person, you guys. Educate me. I'll tell you when I don't know something. And we're here about the facts. Who's telling me to stop drinking? You know, talking a lot. Yeah, I get thirsty. I'm not drinking. It's iced tea. Does it bother you? Yes, Coda. A lot of girls get trafficked from Port Authority. It is awful. Right. You're right. Next to go missing was JONIE JACKSON. She was 27 years old. She was found badly decomposed, little more than a skeleton, under a pile of rubble with multiple skull fractures in February of 1985 in an alley near a Hempstead Village parking lot off West Columbia Street near Village Parking Field 8. She was partly covered by a black plastic bag with some clothing nearby. She was reported by her missing by her mother, Maddie Jackson, in January of 1985, but her mother had not seen her since September of 1984. JONIE JACKSON lived in Hempstead, near where Peach's torso was found at Hempstead Lake State Park. She had a record for prostitution, and she had just been released from Nassau County Correctional Facility in July of 1984. I could not find a picture of JONIE JACKSON to honor her. But what I did find was a very interesting article in Newsday about the prevalence of sex workers in Hempstead in the 80s. I do not remember this. I did not know this. Tell me if you knew this. There is a whole expose that Newsday did on this. And it's a very long article, so I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. But here you have it. This is a whole expose called Where Sex is Sold on the Street. And this was in November of 1985. It's a whole expose about how prevalent street walking was in the village of Hempstead back in the 80s, and how there were so many transvestites that were also what they call streetwalkers, and how this was a really, really big business back in Hempstead back in the day. So when we looked at the East Brown Strangler cases in Atlantic City from 2006, those women also had an area where they would cruise for business. And at least 4 or 5 of these women were picked up in Hempstead, where these women and men would just walk up to cars to get business. And it was very well known, and it was a very, very dangerous, obviously, job. But the more that we learn about Rex Heuermann, if we believe the witnesses that came to John Ray, he may be bisexual. We know that there was an Asian male doe who was found on Gilgo Beach at the same time that many of the other bodies were found. That was found wearing women's clothing. So that gave me an interesting connection to this whole story. Tell me what you think. Says this article says prostitution has existed in downtown Hempstead for decades, proliferating over the past 10 years as streetwalkers mixed with drug traders in a street life that flowed from downtown bars and increasingly urban hangouts. They were in and out those tough bars all the time, said Hugh Weidinger Jr., son of the owner of the largest Jaguar dealership in the world, a Main Street landmark for 47 years. It affected businesses. It affected us all. Civic leaders complained to the village officials over the summer that the sex trade was getting out of hand and that it posed danger to efforts to revitalize the downtown area. In recent months, several women reported being approached on Main Street and in the train station on their way home from work and shopping by men asking for sex before they could get home with their groceries, says Lieutenant John Pagano of the Hempstead Village Police. Those citizens had been solicited several times. In late August, I guess this was in late August of 1984, the mayor, George Millam, ordered a crackdown. Village Police Chief Thomas Scott announced that he would go after the customers as well as the prostitutes. But that plan was scrapped. The officer in the all-male department who had agreed to dress in drag changed his mind because he was embarrassed by news reports of his assignment. Okay, but the crackdown went ahead, and then they gave everybody a whole bunch of tickets, and then there's a whole piece in here about a judge who kept seeing the same people over and over again. They would make jokes, and many of the regulars are transvestites who are much more well-groomed than their female counterparts. Police say both sexes often used cocaine and heroin and have records for petty crime. Most live in transient hotels and low-rent apartments in the area and sometimes work out of them. So if you were a serial killer who had a proclivity for escorts, I don't know, you tell me, is that kind of an easy target? Is that kind of an easy way to find somebody by just driving down the street in Hempstead and everyone's just there looking for work and looking to get picked up? Tell me what you think. I had no idea this went on in Hempstead. Anybody? Any of my locals? Did you know that? I mean, we all knew about Times Square, but did anybody know that this was going on in Hempstead? It's crazy. After JONIE JACKSON was found in February of 1985 in that Hempstead Village parking lot, GWENDOLYN Lukes was found. GWENDOLYN Lukes was a Black woman, 26 years old, an escort from Hempstead, 100 Terrace Avenue, which is a huge Section 8, it was at the time, complex of apartments. GWENDOLYN Lukes was found badly decomposed and strangled in St. Patrick's Cemetery in Upper Brookville, in the back of a small stone storage shed in September of 1985. That's really interesting to me because Upper Brookville is all the way on the North Shore, and it's a very, very wealthy area. That's where many of the Gold Coast mansions are, where people like the Vanderbilts would come for summers. And so that's really interesting to me. The other interesting connection is the cemetery. Remember, we talked about a cemetery across the street from Hotgates where Teresa Fusco may have been found. The detective assigned to that case, she was found in September of 1985, said that GWENDOLYN Lukes had been a prostitute in Hempstead for over 3 years. She was identified from her arrest record from fingerprints. Her body was completely wrapped in a bound blanket. Remember, the Gilgo Four were all found bound in duck camouflage burlap with either belts or duct tape. Are these the early workings of the same person? I'm going to the chat to find out. Madison O'Hare, hello. I'm a retired escort. My YouTube name here is still my old escort name. I made $2,000 a day. I started seeing something really wrong with these men. Most are narcissists and some seem antisocial. I would love to talk to you, Madison. When were you doing this? When did you retire? And I probably 100% would agree with you that there's a certain type of person that, this attracts, somebody who, I'm not going to speculate, but the clientele might not be classiest, let's just say, but that's very interesting. I would love to talk to you sometime to get, some information, some backstory, your thoughts on this. It's a very dangerous, yeah, you're right, it's very dangerous. This story scared me to death, Madison says, and I quit this year. Okay, so how long had you been doing it? What area? Interesting. So GWENDOLYN Lukes lived on the same street that JONIE Johnson was found murdered. Old Brookville police reopened the investigation into GWENDOLYN Lukes in July of 1993 after the indictment of Joel Rifkin. And there were a lot of things they were looking at Joel Rifkin for, and he, would outright say, no, that's not my work. That's not my work. Valerie Cleveland, the next in this cluster of Hempstead escorts, 21 years old, was found August 6th of 1986 in shrubs near the 4th tee at the Hempstead Golf Club, another golf course killing or dumping. She was badly decomposed and nearly nude, 5'3", less than 90 pounds. She had been there less than a week. Nassau County Medical Examiner had, quote, no clue as to the cause of death. She also had a record, and she lived in Hempstead. I found another old article from 1986 where police were looking to see if there was a connection between these 4 deaths. So the police were looking for links in these women's deaths in 1986. Nassau County Police, theorizing that one killer might be involved, are seeking a common thread that would link the deaths of 4 young Hempstead Village women during the past 2.5 years. Police said that the only link so far among the 4 victims was that they all were village residents, but 3 of the 4 women also had a record of arrests for prostitution, police said. 3 were killed violently. The exact cause of death of the 4th has yet to be determined, even though police are certain that the woman whose half-naked body was found Wednesday on the Hempstead golf course did not die where she was found. Detective Sergeant John Nolan, acting commander of the homicide squad, said yesterday his men were looking into the possibility that all 4 women were killed by the same person. We are investigating that possibility, Nolan said. In a homicide investigation, you never overlook anything. The killings date back to February 19th, 1984, when Christine Clarkson, 30, of 125 Hempstead Garden Drive West, was found strangled behind a factory near the West Hempstead Railroad Station. Police said she had spent the previous evening drinking at a local bar and apparently was on her way home when her killer dragged her behind the factory and, after a violent struggle, strangled her. She is the only one of the 4 with no criminal record, police said. The next victim was JONIE JACKSON, 27, of 206 Dartmouth Street. Her battered body, partly decomposed and covered with a plastic bag, was found February 18th, 1985, near a parking lot off Franklin Avenue in Hempstead. The medical examiner's office said that she was beaten to death. Police said Jackson, who had served time in prison for prostitution, had been reported missing for several months when she was found. Last September 13th, the strangled body of another prostitute, GWENDOLYN Lukes, 26, of 110 Terrace Avenue, Hempstead, was found in a Brookville cemetery. Police said she was killed elsewhere and her body taken to the cemetery. The last case involved Valerie Cleveland, 21, of 217 Cornell Street. Her partially decomposed body was found Wednesday under a shrub near the 4th tee of the Hempstead Golf Club. The medical examiner's office so far has been unable to determine the exact cause of death, although shooting, stabbing, and strangulation have been ruled out. Police said that after she died, her body was brought to the spot where it was found. She had a record of prostitution arrests. Police ask that anyone with information in any of the 4 cases call this number. All information will be held in confidence. So, back in 1986, police were thinking that this was all the work of the same person. What do you think? I don't know, Kirsten, if RH played golf. That I do not know. Hi, Leah. Too much victimization of women on Long Island. I've heard of him, but yep. Mm-hmm. Eileen says Madison can help. Madison, email me, fanbase@mlittlelaw.com. If one of my amazing moderators can drop the email into the chat, you can email me. That would be amazing. Hi, Austin. Rex and Joel both looked very similar in high school. Their fathers were both engineers. That's interesting. Yeah, Rex's father was an aerospace engineer, like an actual rocket scientist, right? Hi, Wendy. I know none of these areas as I have never been to New York, but I'm sure grateful you are explaining all of it. Well, my pleasure. I'm here to help. We're here to try and connect some dots. Janelle says, I can just hear the medical examiner saying, I have no clue, right? Hi, Scott. Old Brookville had to call Nassau detectives to investigate up there. All bodies are investigated by Nassau PD regardless of jurisdiction. Interesting. Yeah. I was wondering how many years apart, Austin says, Joel and Rex are. I don't know, but somebody could Google that. Chihuahua. Yeah, we haven't even got to the 90s yet. We're still on the 80s. And look, the deeper I fall into this rabbit hole, call me Alice, because I'm stuck here. I'm stuck here. This gets even weirder, okay? Because the next woman that I'm going to tell you about, her name is Patricia Costello. Ring a bell? Amber Costello is one of the Gilgo Four, one of the three that Rex Heuermann has been indicted for murdering. Amber Costello, who is one of the four that he's been indicted for, her body was found in December of 2010. I think she went missing shortly before that. This woman's name is Patricia Costello. I don't know if there's any relation, but what I do know is in the bail application for Heuermann's Google searches, he was searching up relatives of his victims. So that's just something to think about. On June 1st of 1986, the nude body of Patricia Costello was found at the edge of a beach in Heckscher State Park, just south of the Timber Point Riding Academy in East Islip. Those of you who are from here, you know that Heckscher State Park is not far from Gilgo. Just going to see on my map if I can quickly find it. Okay, I did. I found it. Look at that. Let's take a look. It's good to have a map, you guys, right? Here is Heckscher State Park on the right side. On the right side of the screen. Says that she was found near the Timber Point Riding Academy. I'm not quite sure where that is or if it is even still there, but here's Timber Point Road and close to the Great South Bay. This is the Great South Bay to the south of Heckscher State Park. So somewhere in this area, if we scroll out directly to the left and a little bit south, here's Gilgo. Not far at all. Patricia Costello had been strangled with a, quote, piece of garment, end quote, and the other one was tied to a tree to make it look like a suicide attempt. She worked as a topless dancer. She told her parents she worked as a cocktail waitress, but nobody seemed to know where she worked. And she lived 2 blocks away from Tina Folia, who we have already discussed was a murder victim in Bayshore. Patricia Costello died of strangulation. Let's show a picture of Patricia Costello. Headline, cops, dancer's body was dumped in park. Suffolk County Police said yesterday that they now believe that a Brentwood topless dancer was strangled elsewhere and then dumped near a bridle path in the Heckscher State Park. The nude body of Patricia Costello, 26, was found by a horseman at about 6 p.m. June 1st near the Timber Point Riding Academy in East Islip. Her clothing was found nearby. Police said one article of clothing was looped around her throat and draped over a low tree limb in what they call an effort to make the killing look like a suicide. The indications now are that she was murdered elsewhere and her body disposed of in the park. Detective Lieutenant David Scanlon of the Homicide Squad said yesterday. He asked anyone with information on Costello's whereabouts on May 31st or June 1st to call the Homicide Bureau. Seeing a lot of commonalities here. Most of these women were dumped. It is theorized that also the Gilgo bodies were dumped. Hi, Chrisley. How long did RH first marriage last? And I wonder if she knew anything. Well, let's go back to my notes because I wondered that too. He married a woman named Elizabeth Ryan. And I believe, let me go back to my notes. I think that there's even a wedding announcement here. Hold on. They were married in I want to say 1990. And I was kind of confused about whether they lived she was from New Brunswick, New Jersey. I don't know that anyone's ever spoken to her, but people have said, I don't know where I read this, that their marriage may have broken up because of his addiction to escorts and or pornography. And I don't know where I read that. If anybody can source that for me, I'd really like to know that. I can't find the wedding announcement right now, but I think that they were married around 1990. And I know that he married Asa in 1996. So the first marriage was not that long. There were no children involved. Yeah, I would love to talk to her. No, Mad Beats, that's exactly what I was thinking. I wonder if she was related to Amber. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mystery Girl with Missy. They were married 3 years. Okay, so 1990 to 1993. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, Betty. Betty said that would definitely break up a marriage. Yeah. Thank God for small favors there. Thanks, Rochelle. Married his first wife in 1990, right? Her name's Elizabeth Ryan. I don't know if anybody's been able to find her. Yeah, thank you, Austin. September 29th, 1990. I don't know if they lived in New York or if they moved to New Jersey. Thank you, Diana, for becoming a new member. Thank you so much. Welcome to Melanie's Little Cupcakes. The reason for that is that my logo over here says I am not a cupcake, if you can see that. And the pink sign over here that you can't read says, you cannot make everyone happy. You are not a cupcake. So while I come to you with 30 years experience as a New York State trial lawyer in state and federal courts, I'm also a mother of 5 and a working actor. So I give you all kinds of opinions from all kinds of points of view that are mine. And I'm not afraid to share them, and we're not afraid to talk about the tough topics here. So it's not a neutral channel. If you don't like it, then, you can go find a montage of a slideshow of photos with a robot voice narrating them. But I'm here to give you my opinions. If you don't like it, you can come for me in the comments. I have merch that says that. Come for me in the comments. Just be respectful. And don't attack me personally, any other members personally, or the mods personally, or you'll be blocked. And, you don't want that. So just guide your actions accordingly. But most of you who are here already know me. You know my spiel, so I don't have to repeat it all the time. Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for your super sticker. I appreciate you so much. And I know that you're very generous every time you're watching. Elizabeth Kirk, thank you so much for your super chat. Thanks for being so awesome, Melanie. You rock. Oh, thanks. Well, you guys rock, because without you guys, I don't have a show. Would I have a show if nobody was watching? Ann Bozzarelli, thank you so much. You are also so very generous every time you watch for your super sticker. And yeah, we're getting into it, you guys. We're getting into it. We have not even Dave Bass. I'm no cupcake. I'm an ex-Sydney lawyer, 35 years and no cups or cakes here. That's right. We don't have to make everybody happy, but we can make each other happy because, we're not afraid to speak up, and I'm glad you're here, Dave. So thanks for joining. I think you're gonna like it here. Hello, Missy Minx. How are you, my dear? One of the documentaries I was watching on Shannon and Gilgo victims, at the end of it, they said that someone called in a tip that she was ex-wife. The ex-wife called in a tip? I don't know. Source that for me. Tell me about the documentary. We can watch it. A lot of these documentaries, you guys, are not really to be trusted 100%. I mean, they're looking for, they're looking for drama. I'm not saying that what you're saying, Missy, isn't true. I'm saying that Peacock is paying $1 million to Osip and her children for a reason. They want drama. They want to be there. They want to be there. And they want to follow her to court. And they're going to tell her story. And they might get a very different story from the one that they think they signed up for. Because if she is indicted, this documentary of Peacock's is going to blow up. Oh, Madison, thank you so much for your super sticker. I appreciate you so much. Welcome. I don't think I've seen you here in the chat before, so I think you're going to like it here. We have a really nice chat, and our members and viewers are very, very friendly. Our mods are the best on YouTube, and they kick out the bullies. So you can always feel free to interact. Everyone will welcome you here, and it's really a great community that we're building. And I think, guys, tell me, right? Isn't this a great community that we are building here? Hello, Bailey. Bailey says, hello, everyone listening. Good show. Thank you. I keep going to highlight something and it goes so fast. Katie, Melanie, you're very intuitive and informing and great to watch. Thanks for filling us in here. And on duty, Ron and police off the cuff. Thank you. And that's where I come from. I come from the YouTube world of retired NYPD homicide detectives and forensics experts, duty, Ron and police off the cuff. And I don't come from the law tube area of YouTube, which I really just kind of discovered exists. So I think my show is going to be a little bit different. If you watch other law tubers, I'm not falling into that clique, let's just say. And I talk about what I want to talk about, and I'm going to talk about varied topics. I'm going to talk about the things that I'm interested in, and I hope that you're interested in them too. I did a whole series on Kevin Costner's divorce. So I talk about true crime. I talk about celebrities. I talk about, things that I know that you guys want to talk about. So, thanks. Thanks, Tazzy. You found me from Duty, Ron. That's awesome. Aaron says, in my opinion, the Asa docu is heinous, and I disagree with it. Might change my mind later, but it's icky. Yeah. A lot of people feel that way, and everyone here is nice, Fuzzy Duck. Thank you for saying that. I think that a lot of people are turned off by the whole thing that, she had this GoFundMe. And look, she didn't set up the GoFundMe. And the girl who set that up, who was the happy face, smiley face killer's daughter, that was a very kind thing of her to do. But it's been shut down. And I think it's Melissa Moore. Did I say her name is? Who started that? Shut it down. Thank you, Stacy. Oh, hi, Melanie. Love your channel. That doc is going to be a train wreck. Yeah. Thank you for your super chat. I appreciate you. Yeah, I think it is too. And they're going to, let's hope they get their money's worth. Let's hope they get their money's worth. We're not even done yet. There's more. There's more, you guys. I know. I thought that we were done, but we are not done. So we just talked about Patricia Costello, and Patricia Costello was found in 1986. There's another woman. Her name is JANICE Wilder. She's 22 years old. She was found stabbed multiple times in June of 1989 in the back of a Davis Electronics store on Main Street in Hempstead. I think she was also wrapped in a blanket too. There's not a lot of information about JANICE Wilder. I can't find a picture of her either, but she also was from that Hempstead area. So there was a lot of women that went missing from Hempstead after the 4 teenagers went missing, or the 5 teenagers in early 82, 83, 82, 84, 85. All of these women in Hempstead were found from, well, let's see, Christine Clarkson, that started in 84. 84, then JONIE JACKSON, 85, GWENDOLYN Lukes, 85, Patricia Costello, 86, Valerie Cleveland, 86, found at Hempstead Golf Club. Janice Wilder, 1989. And then we get to Carmen Vargas. And Carmen Vargas's family has been very vocal lately. They've come out and said that they truly believe that Carmen was an early victim of the Long Island serial killer who may or may not be Rex Heuermann. On September 11th, 1989, a woman's body was discovered on the west side of the Meadowbrook State Parkway in Freeport. So let's go back to our map. Oh, what happened? What was the name of that? What's his address? 105 First Avenue? Sopequa Park to Freeport. Oops. All right, I'm going to show you how close that is. And also, Rex worked at a construction company in Freeport after he graduated from New York Tech. So the timeline fits. And as you see from his house, which is this red icon here, to Freeport is not a very long drive at all. It is 7.9 miles to Freeport. See what I'm saying? So here's a picture of Carmen Vargas because we need to honor the victims always, always, always. This is Carmen Vargas. Carmen Vargas was found dead at the side of the road in Freeport on September 11th of 1989. Here is a picture of Rex. This is Rex's Tinder profile picture, you guys, okay? Okay. I'm do Tinder, so I don't even know, but would you guys be swiping whatever way you're supposed to swipe on that? I mean, just, you know, feel free to comment. Feel free to comment in the chat. You swiping? Swipe or keep swiping. Carmen Vargas, 29, vanished after getting into a dark truck outside her apartment building with an unknown man in August of 1989. Her remains were found in a wooded area roughly 30 feet from the west side of the Meadowbrook State Parkway in Freeport, New York, the following month. However, she would not be identified until 1992. For years, the family believed she may have fallen victim to the notorious serial killer Joel Rifkin, a Long Island native who confessed to murdering 17 women between 1989 and 1993. But after being hounded by investigators, Rifkin refused to take responsibility for Vargas's death, telling detectives, "That's not me. That's not my work." The trail went cold once again. That was until the arrest of Rex Heuermann on July 13th, who has been charged with the murder of 3 women found dead along Gilgo Beach in late 2010. Megan Waterman, Melissa Barthelemy, and Amber Lynn Costello. Megan Waterman was 22, Melissa Barthelemy was 24, and Amber Lynn Costello was 27. Somebody wants to do the math on that. How old? Amber Costello was 27 in 2010. And we said Patricia Costello was found in 1986. Oh, I don't have her age here. I think she was young, though. I think she was around 22. I don't recall. I don't know if they're related, you guys, but it's really bothering me now. Now I need to know. I need to know. Heuermann is also the prime suspect in the murder of a 4th woman, 25-year-old Maureen Brainerd Barnes. Known collectively as the Gilgo Four, the women were all SWs of a petite build who advertised their services on Craigslist. They were found in close proximity to one another along Ocean Parkway. Each was missing items of clothing and personal belongings. Items of clothing. Remember, we've talked about this. The shoe, the sneaker. There is some loop footage that they play on News 12 all the time during the Gilgo when they found the bodies, and there's that sneaker. And I think it's an Adidas sneaker. It's a white sneaker with 3 black stripes on it. And we talked about the Eastbound Strangler cases, the 4 women that were found in a drainage ditch in Atlantic City that were all missing a shoe. They're not telling us what pieces of clothing the Gilgo 4 were missing, but there's a lot of talk about missing shoes in a lot of these cases. I've noticed also found 1 sneaker, 1 shoe missing. The Gilgo 4 were found similarly positioned, bound in a similar fashion by either belts or tape, with 3 of the victims found wrapped in a burlap-type material, according to court documents. The 4 murders are part of a broader investigation into at least 11 unsolved deaths in the Gilgo Beach area, with the earliest known killing in that case occurring sometime in early 1996. That is Karen Vergata. Vargas's niece, Felicita Figueroa, told the U.S. Sun she had never heard of the Long Island serial killer case until Heuermann was taken into custody. But after she started reading up about the spree of murders, she noticed a number of glaring parallels between her aunt's murder and the deaths of the Gilgo 4. I started reading about the women, and it was really triggering for me. So that's when I started asking my aunt about it, asking if she'd heard about the serial killer, how they found the women, and telling her it sounds just like Carmen, she recounted. I believe he did it. I believe he did it when he first started killing, Felicita alleged. It's too close to where he lived and where he worked. Where she was found is not far from Gilgo Beach. It's right by Jones Beach. And what was my aunt doing all the way over there? She doesn't know anyone from Long Island. We're from Harlem. Haunting links. Similar to the Gilgo 4, Vargas was in her 20s and of a petite frame. She was 5'1" and weighed just 105 pounds. She was found with her legs bound by a cord, a towel over her face, and a rope tied around her neck. Though not mentioned in news reports from the time, Felicita said her aunt's wrists were also bound, another similarity to the Gilgo 4. By the time she was spotted up by a passerby, Vargas's remains were so badly decomposed that investigators weren't able to definitively state a cause of death or establish whether she'd been SA'd. Her skull was missing 3 teeth, and the hyoid bone in her neck was also partially missing, Felicita said, suggesting that Vargas had possibly been strangled to death. Who else's hyoid bone was missing? Anyone? Bueller? Shannon Gilbert. Police believe she was murdered at a different location and transported to the wooded area where her body was found between 2 to 4 weeks earlier. This is when she was unidentified, and they published, Newsday published a sketch of what they think she might have looked like. 1999. She wasn't identified by her family for another 2 years. Wow. Here's another shot of Ocean Parkway. So you can see here, this is the north side on the bottom of your page. This is where the Gilgo 4 were found on the north side, and the south side is the ocean. Heuermann would have been 25 years old at the time of Vargas's murder. While he has lived in his childhood home in Massapequa Park for the vast majority of his life, in the summer of 1989, he was working for Greer Construction Company in Freeport and had ties to an address in the town on Bedell Street, records show. Heuermann's residence would have been just a few minutes' drive from where Vargas's body was found along the Meadowbrook Parkway. Additionally, Freeport is just 2 towns over from Massapequa Park, and Meadowbrook Parkway leads directly to Ocean Parkway, where the Gilgo 4 was found. Heuermann has not been accused or charged with any additional murders on Long Island and has pleaded not guilty to the current charges. However, numerous police departments across the country are combing back through old cold cases and missing persons report to establish any potential links to him. And I think Nassau County Police Department has said that they are trying, or they're reopening Carmen Vargas's case to see if Heuermann's involved in that. I mean, you would think there's got to be DNA. Very, very sad. Here's a picture of Heuermann going to put more minutes on his burner phone. right close in time to when he was arrested. And of course, this is always, always, always about the victims. Here is a picture of the Gilgo 4 women: Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello. And we are hoping that the indictment on Maureen Brainerd Barnes is coming down soon. District Attorney Ray Tierney has said that the grand jury is still convened, and they are hoping within a matter of weeks to have an indictment on Maureen Brainerd Barnes, and we're hoping for that too. And I know you guys are hoping for that too. Yes, Marianne, prayers for these to be solved. Yes, prayers for everyone. Hi, Linda. I'll bet that's when he started doing this in his 20s and is probably connected to Freeport. Yeah. I mean, all of these cold cases, you know, his DNA was never in any database. He has no record. He has no record. We know they have DNA on Tina Folia and many of these other cases. So we don't know what they're doing behind the scenes, but I hope that I'm not the only one connecting these dots. I hope that, you know, they're doing all this behind the scenes and I'm just catching up here. Kirsten, thank you so much for becoming a new member. And Monique, a member for 1 month. Yay. I'm from Nevada and we prefer the term working girl. Okay, working girl. Escort. Escort's not good. I was just, when I was saying prostitute, it was just because I was reading it out of the newspaper. That was a direct quote. I don't use that word. I prefer to say escort just because I think it's nicer. I don't know, classier. Working girl, whatever you want me to say. I'm here for you. Scott says, for all non-New Yorkers in the chat, Long Island is so beautiful. It is so beautiful. It is. We have the ocean. We have the beaches. There's a lot of trees, a lot of wineries. But it's, there's a lot. Yes, Lauren, there's an outrageous number of cold cases on Long Island. And I had no idea. I had no idea until I started digging into this for you guys and for me, for my own personal curiosity. All roads lead back to Rome. Yes, Ann Bozzarelli, I believe you are true. Hi, Clarabella. Nice to see you tonight. Hope the judge puts a gag order on his wife. There is no way she should be making money from this. Nobody can force her to testify. Listen, there was some misinformation because I go back after the show and I read through the chat sometimes when I have time. Here's the law. I'm going to tell you what the law is. You don't have to like it. You don't have to believe me. Come for me in the comments. I've been practicing law for 30 years. And this is the law in New York with regard to spousal privilege. She cannot volunteer to testify as to anything that happened during the course of the marriage. The spousal privilege is sacrosanct. Any communications that they had during the course of their marriage is privileged. She cannot just volunteer to testify. People were saying, oh, she can volunteer to testify. No, she can't. He can invoke the privilege, or she can invoke the privilege. She can't be compelled to testify against him. So let's just clear that up right now. That's the law. Hi, Danielle. Nice to see you tonight. Thank you, as always, mods, for the warm welcome. It is always so appreciated. Hello, Peter, one of my wonderful mods, and also retired law enforcement. Long Island is the best, surrounded by water. 4 seasons. Yep. We do have the seasons. I don't know. Sometimes I get tired of the seasons. Jason, hello. Why did the spousal privilege originate? I don't know. Yeah, why? Because marriage is sacrosanct. That is why. And a wife or a husband should not be compelled to testify against their spouse. Can anything she says, Clarabella, during the documentary be used? Maybe, maybe not. It depends. The answer to that is it depends. I do not think that she's going to confess during any documentary, and I do not think that she's going to give up any information. I don't know. Chihuahua says maybe that's why the wife is smiling. Yeah. I don't know. Oh, yeah, you can shop through my, hey, thanks, Patroness Glow. Another one of my amazing mods. Yeah, I have some kind of Amazon link, and if you shop through it, even if you don't buy the stuff that's on my list that people ask me about all the time, if you just go into my link and buy whatever you're going to buy anyway, it helps support the channel. So I never ask you guys for money. I would never expect you to join or, contribute or donate or anything, but it's a good way to help the channel. If you're going to buy from Amazon anyway, just click into my link and then just buy whatever other stuff you're going to buy. Garbage bags, rope, duct tape, cat food, dog food, whatever you need. Jason, you're really testing my my knowledge of what I remember from law school. Yes, Lee, it is beautiful, but those property taxes, yeah, no kidding. I think we have the highest property taxes in the country. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say that. Aside from California, where property taxes are based on what you pay for the house, here in New York, we have this thing called assessments, and they make absolutely zero sense. But your property is assessed for a certain amount, and they just keep going up and up and up and up and up every year. Property taxes never go down. They just keep going up and up and up. We're not done yet. Sorry. One more. After Carmen Vargas. December 13th of 1989. The nude body of Christina Warner was found wrapped in 2 green plastic garbage bags in Old Westbury, New York. She resided on West 87th Street in Manhattan and had numerous arrests for SW, all in Midtown Manhattan. Her body was found next to the New York Institute of Technology, where Rex Heuermann attended college. She was also found on the Meadowbrook Polo Club grounds, which also has a very beautiful golf course. Meadowbrook Country Club is one of the most prestigious country clubs on Long Island. There's another golf course connection. There's another connection to a place where Rex would be very familiar, having gone to college right next to the location. Lauren, he kills in clusters. Yes. And when I started this show the other day, I said, I'm going to show you clusters of 4. And then once I started getting into my clusters of 4, there were just so many more that my ADHD wouldn't even let me do the clusters of 4 anymore. I just had to get everything out there. And then maybe at some point I'll have some time to organize it. But I agree with you. I agree with you. And if he graduated high school in 1981, some of these things started in 1982. He would have been 19 years old, you tell me. Those of you who have studied serial killers and their patterns and their proclivities and their habits and customs, when did they start? Some people say sometimes they take a hiatus, like one of the prolific serial killers took a 10-year, I think it was BTK, maybe he took like a 10-year hiatus. Hi, Mama Griffin. I think there's a good chance Asa helped get them to trust getting in the car, or at least helped clean up at the house. And the swingers thing was probably a good way to get the women there. Excellent, excellent theories. I went back and read the bail application. Wait, did I tell you about the Freeport Jane Doe? Okay, sorry. I got to go back to Freeport Jane Doe. So there's a Freeport Jane Doe whose body was found in a dumpster in Freeport. August 4th of 1982, and they couldn't tell how old she was. She was a Black girl. They think somewhere around 14 years old, found in a dumpster, and she had pine needles on top of her. So they thought that perhaps she also had been dumped there. And then I started thinking about patterns, and I started thinking about, proclivities and, MO, and, does he only kill, white girls, or does he also kill Black girls? I mean, we have so many, and is it just women? Is it just men? And then I thought, like, to hell with the patterns, right? And then I remembered the Google searches that he did that were delineated in the bail application. And can we just put up a trigger warning? I have redacted most of it because these are things you cannot unsee. And so while I have redacted it, you can fill in the blanks for yourself. Thank you, Forensics 805, for becoming a member. I love that. I love that. And if you really have a forensics background, please email me. Fanbase@mlittlelaw.com. I would love to get your take on some of this stuff. That would be really, really cool. All right. Do we have the trigger warning? Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Trigger warning. I cannot help you unsee this. But here we go. Now let's go into the one-page view. How do I fix this? Okay. This is interesting too. Can somebody, I have some really conflicting information on his actual date of birth. Does anybody know Rex's date of birth? Because I need to know that for a very personal reason. If anybody can find out what his actual date of birth is, I think he was born in 1963, but there's conflicting reports on what his date of birth is. Okay, so here are the Google searches that they found, and this is only some of them, mind you. There were thousands and thousands of emails of Google searches on this junk account. It was an email account, thawk080672 at Gmail. And I was calling it the Thawk account, but I think it's T Hawk. Maybe like, I don't know, Tony Hawk. Who's Tony Hawk? Who's like a skateboarder or something? Here are his thousands of searches related to SW's sadistic torture-related P and child P, including, I know some of you listen to this and you don't, you're not reading off the screen, so I'm going to read it to you, but I'm going to read it to you in code. Mistress, Long Island. Mature escorts, Manhattan. Girl begging for RP. Teen girl begging for RP. Pretty girl with bruised face, P. Torture, redhead, P. 10-year-old schoolgirl. I guess this one I had to just block out the whole entire thing because I couldn't stand to look at it. Skinny, redhead, tied up, P. Short, fat girl, tied up, P. Because a lot of people have been saying, oh, you know, this one wasn't so skinny and small. Maybe if this is the kind of P searches that he's looking up, this is, I would guess, is what turns him on, right? 10-year-old schoolgirl, tied up, and RP. Asian twink, tied up. For those of you who don't know, twink is slang for a male. Yes, somebody tell me. For a gay male. Young, gay, male, buff. If there's another definition, let me know. But we do know that there's an Asian male doe. And next episode that I'm going to do is going to be men who were found murdered during the 80s. And there are a lot of them too. A lot of them who may have been, you know, transvestites who dressed up like women, just like we were looking at that Hempstead article about the sex workers that were all over Hempstead Village in the 80s. Tied slaves, 10-year-old girl hog-tied, 10-year-old blonde girl, chubby 10-year-old girl, black girl, 10 years old, girl with face beat up, chubby 10-year-old girl crying, 13-year-old schoolgirl, age 12 child girl with blonde hair, blue eyes, blonde-haired girl depressed, preteen girl with makeup, etc., etc., etc. I know, it's disgusting, I know, but when we start thinking about, people say patterns and, you know, he couldn't have done this because that person looks like this and that person looks like that. Based on those Google searches, I don't think he has a type. These could have been crimes of opportunity, crimes of rage. It's insane. And then, you know, the search is about the investigation itself. Rochella, September 13th, 1963. I know, I saw that, but then I also saw that he had a February birthday. And so even when I went into the criminal system, into the criminal court system, it doesn't have his date of birth. It only has his year of birth, 1963. So then for those of you who weren't with me very, very early on in this case, when we went through the entire bail affidavit and talked about it, he was also searching up the actual investigation. And his Google searches revealed that I don't know if he knew that they were onto him, but look at some of these searches in this T-Hawk email account. It was used to conduct that T-Hawk email account was used to also conduct in excess of 200 searches between March 22 and June 23. That's the time that they were surveilling him once they made the connection from the description of the last person to see Amber Costello alive in 2010. That was sitting in the case folder since 2010. That was never followed up on or looked into because James Burke was the Suffolk County Police Chief, and he didn't let the FBI in and sort of like didn't have anybody investigating this case, because then he went to jail, and then Tom Spoda, the district attorney, went to jail where he still sits, and Club Fed, which is what they call federal prison. So nobody's really been looking at this case until 2022 when this task force was formed. So when they found the description of this 6'4" to 6'6" ogre who drove a first-generation green Chevy Avalanche, a female, I'm proud to say, New York State trooper connected the dots very, very quickly. And by March 20 of 22, they had Rex Heuermann identified and they were surveilling him. So these searches that happened between the time they ID'd him in March of 22 and June 23, when they arrested him shortly thereafter, these Google searches related to active and known serial killers, the specific disappearances and murders of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello, and the investigation into their murders. These searches or articles access include but are not limited to: why could law enforcement not trace the calls made by the Long Island serial killer? Why hasn't the Long Island serial killer been caught? Long Island serial killer phone call update, killer update 2022. FBI active serial killers by state 2023. Map of all known serial killers, unsolved serial killer cases, America's 5 most notorious old cases, 11 currently active serial killers, 8 terrifying active serial killers we can't find. John Bitrolf, we'll talk about John Bitrolf on another show because I have questions about that case as well. Megan Waterman, Melissa Barthelemy, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, names of Melissa Barthelemy's relatives, names of Megan Waterman's relatives. Cops launch Gilgo Beach Homicide Investigation Task Force, mapping the Long Island murder victims, inside the Long Island serial killer and Gilgo Beach, the Gilgo Beach killer criminal minds, and in Long Island serial killer investigation, new phone technology may be key to break-in case. So he was watching them watch him. It was also used to search for a number of podcasts and or documentaries regarding this investigation, as well as repeatedly viewing hundreds of images depicting the murdered victims and members of their immediate family. Significantly, Defendant Heuermann also searched for and viewed articles concerning the very task force that was investigating him. And there you have it. And there you have some of it, anyway. I'm going to go to the chat now. Hi, Cindy Berg. Thank you for becoming a member. So nice to have you here with us in Melanie's Little Cupcakes. Madison. Psychopath. I can't imagine anyone having a threesome with those sick freaks. If you believe the witnesses that John Ray has found, and I submit to you, what reason do they have to lie? They're not being paid $1 million by Peacock to be in any documentary, I say. And I would also say that coming forward, however many years later, let's see, the woman who went with the detective to the Heuermann house in 1996, almost 30 years later, to come out and say, oh, hey, guess what? I was a swinger. I went to this house. We left this girl there. It's not something that somebody's going to volunteer for, popularity. I'm just saying. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Hello, Oblivious Benson is here. Yay! Remember, they have the links via digital evidence proving the burners in his name connected to 3 of the 4 victims by phone calls to arrange dates. Yep. They've got his burner phone that he used to contact the women. Then he took their phones, and then he had his own personal cell phone. So they've got triangulation of all those 3 phones never being outside the same place at the same time. In other words, always being in the same place at the same time. And that is part of the bail application that I went through the time I did the whole deep dive into it, which we won't do today. But yes, you are correct. And it's the digital forensics that are going to be a big problem to overcome. Listen, I think Michael Brown, his attorney, is an amazing attorney, but I just think that in this case, there's a lot of evidence, whereas in some other cases that we have covered, there may not be as much evidence. That's what I think. And Anne says the same thing. Law enforcement connected the burner phones to him by tracking where and when the phones were pinged and where Rex was at those times, often using his regular phone as well as the burner phone. Yep. Busy guy and a creep. Green Dragon. Girl missing from South Carolina, Julia Bean, I think, and the one missing from Las Vegas look alike, and both look like the painting of the girl with black eyes taken from the house. That's interesting. But also we looked at another missing person the other day from Virginia. And there's a sketch, a police sketch of a guy who looks just like a young Rex. We did a side-by-side of that, and it was creepy. It was creepy. It's ironic. BTK took stop for a time after his daughter was born. I just don't believe Asa knew about his deviant tendencies. You know, maybe she knew about his, proclivities for his fetishes, but not the unalivings. That's totally possible. Hi, Olivia. First marriage with Elizabeth Ryan, 1990 to 1993. Why has nobody found Elizabeth Ryan? Why has nobody talked to her? Maybe she's just not talking. We were talking the other day about Asa saying that there was a lot of conflicting reports. I read something that says she grew up in Farmingdale. So I don't know about this growing up in Iceland thing. Maybe she is Icelandic. Maybe she comes from an Icelandic heritage, but she grew up in Farmingdale, and her sister also lives on Long Island, and her sister wrote some books. Somebody told me some crazy books. Jason, I love when Bill Cannon says a 6'4" ogre. Annabelle, is there an inquiry for the Blue Book value of a Chevy Avalanche? No, but you know what, Annabelle Stealth? The first generation green Chevy Avalanche was no longer in his possession upon his arrest, but it was still in the family. He gave it to his brother, Craig, who lives in South Carolina, where Rex bought a whole bunch of property, acres and acres, right? I think across the street from his brother in Chester, South Carolina. So that vehicle has been retrieved from South Carolina and is up being processed, but then he bought himself another green Chevy Avalanche. And I think he still has that one. So I guess whatever the Chevy Avalanche is all about, that's what he needed to use it for. I mean, if he's guilty, because, innocent until proven guilty. Root trackers, hello. Some say 63, some say 65. I think his brother is born in 65. Craig Hurman, who we have found maybe one photograph of. We can't find anything on him, but reports are that he is also very, very large, ogre-like, and has a similar look and build to his brother. You see September 10th and 13th. Yeah, I don't know. The birth date is, I saw that it was in February, so I was unsure. Hello, mystery girl with Missy. Have you noticed the African-American ladies and Sugar Bear were disposed of different? Garbage can peaches, suitcase cherries, lake, large dumpster, Andre Jamal Isaac. Yeah, I think maybe I'll do the next episode on that. We can focus on that. I haven't gotten to peaches yet, to cherries, to Andre. Yeah, Sugar Bear. Isn't Sugar Bear Andre? Yeah. Because I want to do, there's a whole bunch of unsolved cold cases for men too. But no, that's a great point. I didn't No, I did not think of that. And that's interesting. I think there was also another toddler cold case that I found. So all of this is really, really crazy, and it's just getting the spidey senses up. And there's gotta be more cold cases from the '90s that we haven't even touched yet, but now that we have the Newsday archives, you can trust me, I'll be in there. Oblivious and I are gonna be in there. We're gonna be digging up these cold cases and then bringing them to you. And Oblivious, next time you come on with me, maybe you can dig up some more on some of the cases that I looked at today. And oh my gosh, wouldn't it be great if we could help close some of these old cases, these old cold cases? I mean, the parents of these girls that are still missing and the ones who don't have any closure from the 1980s about what happened to their daughter. You know, I think about JANICE FULLAM, who's been missing since 1981. It's crazy. Hi, KML. I think it's interesting to consider that the police officers are complicit in these crimes, not just James Burke. Anything is possible at this point. Like I wouldn't even rule anything out. There is just too many coincidences. Forensics, he must have told his wife that he was working overtime at the office. Yes, Oblivious Benson, that would be a dream. Let's do it. I know you probably weren't here because you're studying hard, but if you go back and watch the beginning, you can see what I've already done and what I've already dug up, and my ADHD got the better of me, and it was kind of all over the place because as I started digging, as you know, when you fall into these rabbit holes, you just find yourself pulling threads in so many different directions that it's hard to keep focus on it. But I tried to at least pull some focus into the late 1980s, which I think we did here tonight, and so many women that were found dead from Hempstead, so many teenage girls, and at least 2 of them have never been found. There is Kelly Marcy and JANICE FULLAM. So it's got me. When you have ADHD, you can focus for hours on something interesting. I know, but then like every time it's like, oh, something shiny, oh, look, it sparkles. Like you get so distracted because you go from one rabbit hole to the next, almost like a mole. Betty, if they leave Asa alone, they don't risk exposing other police and politicians swinging with them. Jason, someone saved my life tonight, Sugar Bear. No, I like that. I like that. If you could come on here and sing that would be great. That's a great song. I spent the whole weekend with Dave Matthews, so I'm still on a high from that. That was pretty amazing. Friday, I guess it was today's only Monday, right? Yep, Friday and Saturday night, Madison Square Garden, Dave Matthews Band. Amazing. It was amazing. Love him. Somebody told me, they were like, oh, don't you know that Emily D. Baker is also a huge Dave Matthews fan? I said, no, I had no idea. My sister, who was with me at the show, was like, yes, I did. I told you that during Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. I don't remember. I don't remember what I did yesterday. Oh, you love Dave Matthews too? Yeah, it was so great. So great. Skoda does too. Yeah, it was so great. And there's something about Madison Square Garden too, because Madison Square Garden, for those of you who don't know, sits above Penn Station. It's high up in the air, and it's suspended on cables. And so when the garden is rocking, the garden is really rocking. Like you can feel the garden swaying like this. So cool. So cool. At concerts and also at Rangers games when the fans are going crazy, stomping on the floor, the whole thing, just like it rocks. It really rocks. It was pretty amazing. That's my thing. Concerts are my thing. And I love the Rangers too. And I love my Buffs, except for, oh my God, they got a whooping the other day. I don't know. There's only one more game left, and it's almost like, please let the season end. Deion Sanders, come on, man. He better stick around too. Oh, psychopath, Rangers fans see being a psychopath. Well, sorry guys, but it's better than the Islanders. Aaron says, I was telling my husband, you're both Dave Matthews fans. Y'all should catch up my collab. Yeah, you're going to go to Mexico. Dave Matthews is playing in Mexico. He does every year in February over President's Weekend. It's a great time. So much fun in Cancun, right on the beach. It is amazing. Let's go Rangers. Yeah, Susan Marie. All right, maybe I'll wear my Rangers jersey. I'm an old jersey. Yes, Olivia, I agree with you. Back to the subject. RH has two sisters. This is root tracker, sorry. And one brother based on the family tree that you're looking at, that it, yes, could be true. And there was something else. Libby said RH is a disgrace that I think hated women. You know, his father died when he was 11. You know, and I often, when I fall into these rabbit holes, try and think, you know, what made this person become this way? You know, if he's the oldest and his father dies when he's 11 and suddenly he's thrust into this sort of man of the house position, you know, what was his relationship like with his mother? What went on in that house? What, you know, his brother went to jail for a time because he was drunk driving and coked up on Sunrise Highway, I think in Massapequa, and he killed a New York City Transit Authority police captain. So he went to jail for a time, also his brother. So there's a lot of things that we don't know that went on. And listen, the history, the family history is very scarce. I can't find a lot. So the fact that you found out that he has two sisters and one brother, where are the sisters? And we've heard about Craig, the brother, but I don't know where those two sisters are. Wait, what? Brooklyn Payzola. Rex did building work on your block and on your block in Brooklyn Heights. I thought you were going to say on your building, like you hired him to get your permits for you. Deb, you're better than me. I don't remember half an hour ago. I'd never get on anything moving like that. I'd freak out. I know. And imagine you come on a show, you're talking for 2 hours, you're trying to stay on one subject. I try and have an outline of what I'm going to talk about, and then I just go off on 14 different tangents. But I think we're getting some done here, right? Oblivious Benson's a wrestling fan. So listen, we all have our quirks. Yeah, you are a rabid wrestling fan, aren't you? I was the other night, I was after Dave Matthews, my sister and I went to, you know, one of our favorite bars right near Penn Station. And it's a Rangers bar and it's a whatever, whoever's playing, they play the music. It's a Deadhead bar because it's called Stout. And one of the owners was a huge Deadhead, but they play like, you know, they played all Dave Matthews. But that night, Saturday night, was the start of the Formula One race. And they had the entire place reserved for like Formula One people. And I don't know anything about NASCAR or car racing, but those people were like rabid fans. And it was in Las Vegas and it was all over the TV. And those people were really, really into it. So for those of you who are into NASCAR or Formula One, I mean, that's another obsession that people get into. It's pretty cool. I don't know a lot about it, but very, very cool. Christina, I think it was a messed up upbringing. Yeah, I don't know. Julie, RH was born evil, just nature helped. Yeah, you know, is it nature or nurture? I mean, I think there's a lot of different schools of thought on that. Brooklyn plays Zilla. I think he had sadist sexual proclivities and quickly realized he could get away with murder with the circuit he was running in. Yeah, could be. Hey, forensics. I think Emily D. Baker goes to almost every day. Oh, that wouldn't that be funny if I just like saw her there and bumped into her? She would have no idea who I am, but I would know who she is. I don't know where she lives. Where is she from? I don't know. I'm in New York. I don't know where she is. Hi, Patty Robinson. Can I show that sketch? Sure. I just have to remember where I saw it. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. Let's see. Her name is Alicia Showalter. All right, I have to, that's the U.S. Sun does not have a good Showalter Reynolds. Okay, here it is. Sometimes you go into these websites and they got 14 different things playing, and then they want you to, it's just ridiculous. Okay, hold on, here we go. There's a side-by-side. Alicia Showalter Reynolds, 25, who went missing 30 years ago in 1996. That's a picture of Alicia. Here is the police sketch by Virginia State Police of the suspect at the time in 1996. And there is a current photo of Rex Heuermann. What do you think? Yeah, whoa. A little bit of similarity. Betty thinks it looks like him. Make it bigger. Crazy. Eyebrows, mouth. Too close for comfort. Oh, yeah. It's a resemblance for sure. So this was, yep, patroness glow. Yep. So looks like the same person. That is scary, Clarabella. Oblivious. He was very thin in high school and then now big as hell. So I think that sketch is actually a good middle ground, especially for that time. Yep. Curious Charlie. Looks like him. Oh, wow. Yeah. Scott, it's also very rare for a sketch to be that accurate, right? Right? I mean, I always wondered how they do that because, I mean, I could describe a person, but I wouldn't know how to describe a person to the point where a police sketch artist could make it really look like the person. I mean, I just don't know how they do it. They must be amazing artists. Even the comb over, Betty says. I know, and this was from 1996. Jason says, look at the nose. It's crazy. So this happened on a Route 29, which apparently was the route that Rex would take to visit his mom, who lived in Palmyra, Virginia, at the time of this murder. So there are a lot of... Oh, hi, Jason. I'm looking at an email that you sent me, but I don't know what this is. Hold on. You want me to show this Chevy Avalanche thing that you sent me? It's pretty cool. Hang on, Jason. Jason did a little something for us. Let's see what we have here. I love graphics. Okay, props to Jason Smith. Hold on 1 second. Well, Jason, too bad you can come on here and explain this to us, but this is looks like a graphic of the Chevy Avalanche. It's like freaking out on me. Hold on, let me see if I can just... And what are we showing? What are you showing us here, Jason? I wish you could come on and explain this. Maybe you can some other time. It's got all kinds of features that would be perfect if you were a serial killer. Oh, there's a light, a cargo box light. There's a A rear step bumper. Oop. I need a techie. Rubber mat bed liner for for easy remove and for fast cleanups. That's great. Grab handles to provide easy access to the cargo box. Can also be used as cargo tie downs when you need to secure items or bodies. Cargo cover storage bag. There's no need to head back to your garage whenever you're on the go and need to remove the 3-piece cargo cover. Just store the cover in its own protective storage bag, secure it in the open box, and keep moving. It's got a Protect tailgate that's lockable, lightweight, and rust-proof. Its one-piece inner panel is made from a durable composite material to help resist dents and dings. And the Protect tailgate even includes integrated cup holders to hold your cup of coffee while you're working outside. Yeah, Jason, I guess this would be the perfect vehicle if you needed to use it for something such as that. Top box storage back here in the bumper. Lockable lighted storage compartments are located on the side of the cargo box and provide up to 1.7 cubic feet of room each. These containers are perfect for holding small camping gear or emergency equipment or duct tape or rope or whatever else you might need. Very cool, Jason. Thank you for that. Low gate, composite bed. Yeah. Hello, Annabelle Stealth. There's pictures of Rex and Stephen Baldwin at Gilgo Beach in their high school yearbook. Isn't it Billy Baldwin that he went to school with? Or was Stephen around the same age too? Jason says it's the serial killer truck of choice. Well, I mean, yeah, why not? I mean, it looks like it's easily washable. You can put all your stuff in there, all your gear, everything you need. Yeah. Yikes, Laura Christine. Yikes. I wonder if Rex's dad had any creepy habits. No, but I think he was into woodworking, and I think they had a lot of Jason Smith props, says Black Rose, another one of my awesome mods. Woodworking. He did woodworking, and I think there were a lot of woodworking tools in the house. And one of the neighbors came out and said in one of the early articles that came out right when he was arrested was that Rex was into woodwork. He was always chopping wood. Rex was always chopping wood in the front yard and in the backyard and in the driveway. And also he was always watching TV on the front porch. He had a big TV out on the front porch. And all of his neighbors said that he was always burning fires in the backyard, no matter what the season, in a big garbage pail. Lots of fires. Lots of fires, you guys. So we are still in the rabbit hole. I don't know if he ever, Christina, rented or had a hunting house, but he was an avid duck hunter and hunter. And I think Oblivious Benson and I were working on some things that it may have belonged to some hunting clubs. There's a lot of hunting clubs on Long Island. And he was a duck hunter. And that's why he had 297 guns allegedly in his not vault in his cellar. That was, not soundproof, they're saying. But, it may have been naturally soundproof. Underground, full of cinder blocks, made of cinder blocks. May have been naturally soundproof is just what I'm saying. And also, it's been reported they found a mattress down there in that vault too. So go back and watch my show on that from early on. Oblivious Bunsen, duck hunting swingers. This man loved a club. Yeah. Yes. Yes. And La Trapeze was the club that he was a member of. And there was another club. So I was talking about this with some people the other night and saying, like, did you guys know about this club, La Trapeze? Because I was in the city and it was right nearby where it used to be. And everyone knew about it. Oh, yeah, La Trapeze. Everyone knew about it. And they said, and there was another club in the meatpacking district, a similar club, like a swingers club, where there were people dancing in cages. Does anybody remember that club? That would have been back in the 90s, right? This Karen Vergata thing was in 96 when they said they went to Rex's house. La Trapeze would have been in early 90s. Anybody know that club? That was in the meatpacking district where people were dancing in cages. It was more like a voyeur type swingers club. We'll see. Some crazy stuff. Ah, we have some info on Elizabeth Ryan. February 3rd, 1967, Anaheim, California, attended Anaheim High School and won several tennis championships. She was given a tennis scholarship to Stanford and graduated with a degree in psychology in 1989. Do you think this is the same one? That's interesting. It's very interesting. Benson. Marianne heard about that club in the 90s. Yeah, where they were dancing in cages. Probably was at Studio 54, but I don't know. I don't know if that was his thing. Oblivious. Please do not dox without confirmation. Okay. We don't know. We don't know if that's true. Oh, is that what it was called? Brooklyn Pay Solo is always coming in with all the details on all the sorted info. Plato's Retreat. That's what it was called. Yes, I do. Yes, I remember that now. Yes, that rings a bell. Interesting. Nope. No, but in the Limelight, I remember Limelight too. But that was Plato's Retreat. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Crazy, crazy flashbacks. Not that I was never there, obviously, but I remember the name. Are you talking about the club Limelight on 18th Street where people dance in cages? No, no, I know what you're talking about though. I did used to go to Limelight too. That was in an old church. That was a pretty cool place, but always very hot and sweaty in there. The Vault, is that what you're saying, Scott? Is called the Vault? I thought it was Plato's Retreat. I don't know. Okay, Oblivious Benson says that's not the right Elizabeth. Okay, the tennis girl, the tennis player from Stanford is not his first wife. I'm debunking that theory right now. Thank you, Oblivious. Oak Beach Inn was in Oak Beach, Long Island. Yes, correct. Correct. I did go to the Limelight maybe once or twice. Didn't hang out there all the time. You know what I heard it was now? It's like a Soul Cycle place where you go and do like, stationary bike stuff, like in Limelight. I heard that. I don't know if they're still doing that there, but it was pretty cool. Okay, Jason, I don't have time to go to those emails now because I'm going to wrap, but I will. And next time send them to me like before the show so they don't have to look into them while we're doing the show. But we can totally do that. If you want to come on, email me and we'll set up a Zoom and we'll see if you want to come on and describe all these cool graphics that you're making. That would be totally cool. And also I would like Oblivious Benson to also, let's get that stuff going on some of these girls that we've already talked about to see if we can try and do a deeper dive into them. And maybe if anybody has any information, we can start to, I don't know, close some of these cold cases. I feel so bad for all of these women, all of these victims. And we are always, always, always about the victims here and about spreading awareness and about, just trying to help in a kind way. That's not hard. So thank you to all of my moderators. You keep the chat classy. You are so amazing. And I love you all. And I could not do this without you. To all of my channel members who have been so kind to want to be members of my little club, and to all of my viewers, my replay viewers, please don't forget to like the video on your way out, and you can always share it. That helps with the algorithm. I do go back and read the comments, so feel free to comment, and I do like to respond to them as well. But just remember, be cool, be kind, be classy. It's not that hard. I'm going to see you all real soon because I'm working on episode 3 of this series that we're getting into here. So, keep on keeping on. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks. Have a great night.